Fastamai everyone. This is the second of my 3-month-long wrap-ups for 2015. This one covers April, May and June. As I said in my previous video, we're going to try a slightly different setup to deal with the glasses glare. When I said that, I was just thinking about trying this new angle, but it didn't really work. So I've now taped some tissue paper over the screen, which means that I can't really see whether. So when I hold up the things, I can't actually tell whether you can see that or not anymore. We're just going to have to hope, and if it is really terrible, I'm going to have to redo this, which is what I was trying to avoid doing. Anyway, on with the show. And as you have already seen, the first book that I read in April was La Reine Étranglée, which is the second in a French series by Maurice Drouin. I read the first one back in November last year, so it was just after my last monthly wrap-up, and I've decided not to cover over those last things. It was only 2 books that would have gone into it. One was The Iron King, Le Roi de Fer, the first one in this series, and the other was The Charioteer by Mary Reynolds. So I'm sure, obviously, as I talk about the rest of this series, I'm going to mention the first one, and I'm going to probably do something with The Charioteer as well. So, moving on from this aside, this is the second book in the series. I have also got the English translation, which, as you can see, is recommended. The English translations have recently been reissued with a bit of a fuss because George R.R. Martin, as it says on the front, has said that he really liked the series. It was one of the inspirations behind A Song of Ice and Fire. Now, I have to say, I actually find that the French version is better than the English one, which is really difficult and a bit strange. But it sort of makes sense because it turns out the French was originally written in the 1950s, and that is when the English translation was made. But after, about 20 years later, Drouin came back to the series and reworked it a bit. So the French version that I'm reading is the 1970s edition, and this is the translation of the 1950s edition. And there were a few differences. He's changed some of the course of events, well, not like in big ways, just in small ways, because this is historical fiction, so there's not too much that he can really do. But he's changed the dialogue a bit, or the narrative, or made some tweaks. One of the big things, which is especially clear in this book, is that the original comes out with an awful lot of really gross, sexist bleh about Marguerite, the queen that gets strangled. Spoilers in the title. And yeah, it is pretty gross. It's one of the reasons why I feel like I can't recommend this, because it should have been retranslated from the more recent French edition, but it hasn't been, and yeah, it's pretty gross. So don't read the English. If you can, try and read the French, because it is so much better, and it's really great. I love this series. I've got, as you're going to find out, I've got 4 books into it. I'm going to have to finish the other 3 later, because I will not be able to do this next year. Spoilers for the reading challenge. I won't go into that. No. Moving on from that, after the disappointment of that terrible English edition, I read this next book in Laini Taylor's series about it's the second book. Daughter of Smoke and Bone is the first one, which was in the first video. This one, I think I found it better because there was less of the gross love story there, which I'm not so keen on from the first book. And I do like Akaiva's miserableness and his angsting and his sort of tortured soldier boyness. I do like that. So, yes, this was a good book. Although there were some things in it which were a bit questionable. Things which I would normally try to avoid, like, well, I've decided that I'm going to just avoid books which have rape as a plot device, because who needs that kind of shit, really? And there is some of that in this, so do be aware of that. Although, I mean, she doesn't actually get raped, but there is an attempted rape, and yeah, if you don't like that, do avoid. Then we have some more of the classic gay literature with Morris by E.M. Forster, which, well, it was written in the very beginning of the 20th century, but it was only published about 60 odd years after he wrote it. So, sorry, oh my god, it's in the photograph, okay. Yeah, I don't really know what to say about this. I recommend that you go and find other people's reviews, because this is just a and so far as I can make it very quick. Yep, this is good. I might add this to the thing that I'm thinking of doing, so I will say more about it possibly at some point. The next one was The Miniaturist by, there we go, I can just about see that you can see that, by Jessie Burton, which is set in Amsterdam in the Golden Age and includes a gay character, although the title Miniaturist turns out to be a bit of a disappointment, I find. But the rest of the story is great, and of course Amsterdam, Golden Age, wonderful, absolutely recommend that. I got that in a bit of a deal along with this next thing, which was a massive disappointment, because it's, well, it's another one of those girl meets enemy soldier boy, like Daughter of Smoke and Bone, except worse. Because, well, in this one, everybody is beautiful and white, apart from one character. And the soldier boy is insufficiently tortured. He's been a soldier since he was 14 and he has no PTSD. I'm not buying it. I'm sorry. It's shite. Don't buy it. Fortunately, I then read a load of much better books about dragons, which were all on my Kindle, so I can't show them off to you, as I say, like I said in the previous one. And this was all of the 8 current books in the Temeraire series by Naomi Novik, which I wrote this down because there's a lot of them. His Majesty's Dragon, Throne of Jade, Black Powder War, Empire of Ivory, Victory of Eagles, Tongues of Serpents, Crucible of Gold, and Blood of Tyrants. And I was given them by my friend Kit, who really loved them, and I really loved them too. It's sort of the Napoleonic Wars, but with dragons. So it's pretty cool. And one of the reasons why this series is so long and exciting is because they travel all around the world, meeting all these different cultures and how all these things are different with dragons. But back in the 19th century, well, early 19th century. So it's really cool. And I very quickly got to shipping the main character, Will Lawrence, with one of the other characters, who then later on turned out to be canonically gay. It was amazing. I loved it. The only downside I would have said, which felt a bit weird, I mean, I still liked it because he turned out to, this other character turns out to be canonically gay, but the way that it was revealed, it felt like it was a spur of the moment, oh, this will be hilarious. I know how to make the situation so funny. I'll just make him gay. It'll be hilarious. Without any particular forethought. And, you know, that's a bit problematic. It's a bit uncomfortable. So, although I liked it, I was a bit, I don't know, I don't feel like this is especially appropriate. But the series is still absolutely great, and you should read it. I was actually sitting in, because I was reading this while I was away, that's why I was reading it on the Kindle, because I don't really like Kindles, or ebooks generally. But yeah, so I was reading this while I was away, and I was actually sitting in the airport crying in public. It was embarrassing. It's so good, this series. You should read it. Questionable things aside. Then after that, I read this, which Goodreads has been recommending to me for ages, so I finally decided, okay, I will put it on my Amazon wishlist, and then somebody bought it for me. Brilliant. Which is a sort of post-war English crime series, where it's set post-war. It's obviously written now. With these two gay characters who are solving mysteries. I quite liked it. I like the characters and the way they interact, but I felt like it needed some better editing because some of the little details didn't quite ring true. So from that point of view, I mean, it's great. It's a bit of an addiction. I can't stop buying them, even though I find them a bit. So yeah, the second one in the series is going to show up soon in another video, probably the next video. Yep. Surprisingly good, albeit a little iffy. And then we have The Golem and the Jinni by Helen Wecker, which I actually saw. I can't remember how I found it, but I came across a review of it and thought that looks quite interesting. I shall also add this to my wish list. It's sort of about, it's about finding how to adult, how to, overcome your differences and that kind of thing. With a golem and a jinni living in New York just about the turn of the 20th century. It says fans of the Night Circus will love this, and as you can see, I also got the Night Circus. So if you like the Night Circus, you should probably read this. It is really good, even if it's maybe not quite exactly what I would normally have read. But yeah, I don't know why I'm thinking it's not, but anyway. Then the last book for June, because we have zoomed through these months because they're mostly all on the Kindle, so I can't talk about the individual ones from the series because it'll just spoil it all for you. So yeah, we've got Magic's Promise, the second book in the Last Herald Mage trilogy, with Vaniel being all angsty and miserable and I still love it. Yes, I still love this series. So that was that. If you have any particular thoughts about these books, feel free to leave some comments. I would love to hear about it. And otherwise, I will see you next time.